Hello everyone and welcome. This is a tutorial on how to build Junker Queen in Stadium. Now, Queen is very oppressive and applies a lot of pressure onto the enemy team so long as you build her right. Now, the main key or keynote you want to take down is that Queen relies on AP a lot. She relies on ability power. She needs to always upskill her ability power, so she's constantly doing very good damage and not falling behind and snowballing in later rounds. So typically, you always want to make sure you have ability power. So go for things that go with like Champions Kit, Nano Cola, anything that will help you just upskill an AP. But I will give you guys the most optimal build for Queen that works for me when I play Stadium. So the first power you typically want to go for is Chop Chop. This will give you a second Carnage, but the cooldown reduction per hit is reduced to 1, which is honestly, with Carnage, it doesn't really matter about that little side note, because you most of the time when you use Carnage, you typically want to try to hit at least 2 or more people, but if not, you can mostly just focus on one person and just commit both double Carnages to it. Now, for the first round, you want to go for Charge Plating, Power Playbook, and Shady Spectacles. The first round doesn't really matter because you're just starting the match, but you want to typically have around 10 to 12 to 14k credits by the end of the first round. Once that's done, now you want to upscale again. You want to go for, let's say, Nano Cola, Energized Bracers, and if you have enough credits, you can go even higher. You can go Custom Stock, or you can just go with Power Playbook, and that's about it if you have enough credits. It all depends on how many credits you have overall. You can't just, say you did this and this but not have enough credits. So now, this is what your build should optimally look like by round 2. Now, when round 3 comes around, you want to assess what the enemy team is building, see if they're playing around you or if they're just allowing you to have free reign. If you're having a hard time staying up, I recommend going for Blood Craze. This will give you 15% max life as overhealth per hit. And if you really can't stay up, go for Thick Skull. Thick Skull will give you 75% damage reduction every time you use Carnage or Rampage, which is really, really good for Queen because sometimes when she casts Carnage, she's very vulnerable. So, I would recommend this if you keep dying too quickly on Queen when you cast Carnage. Now, going back to this, for the powers, you want to assess what the enemy team is building, and you always want to make sure you build around them. Do not build a build if they're if their build directly counters yours. You always want to check what they're trying to build. So, with that being said, I typically go for Reckoner's Roar right after if they don't have a shield. If they have a shield character, do not get Reckoner's Roar. It will be almost impossible to have Commanding Shout, wound status effect when you shout. When you shout, you apply the wound status effect, but it will be nearly impossible to do that if they have a shield character because you can't get into the enemy team lines when Ryan is just holding up his shield, so you'll have your shout wasted for nothing. However, Royal Bullets is also a really good perk to have just to constantly apply wound, but you have to be within a 15-meter radius to even do that. But typically with Queen, you're a close quarter combat type of character anyway, so this would be very good and would work overall with any type of build. But for me personally, I like to go with Soaring Stone over Reckoner's Roar, and with that, I will show you guys a little trick. So since you can now leap while you're casting Carnage, you'll go for Thick Skull, Cyber Venom, and any type of AP that'll upscale. So for example, you typically always want to have Champions Kit with Queen. You always want to make sure to have Champions Kit. Champions Kit will just upscale your AP by a lot, but also make sure that you are constantly doing more damage than the enemy team is doing to you to secure eliminations. Now, with that being said, you always want to make sure to have Cyber Venom too. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Cyber Venom is excellent for someone like Queen, where she constantly applies wound, and gives a healing reduction of 30%. Now, with that being said, from here you can honestly build Queen however you want, but I do recommend to take one extra survivability perk so you're not dying too quick. Now Queen is a character of self-sustain, but the issue with Queen is that if you don't, you always have to calculate your moves. You don't want to just mindlessly carnage when you know that they're going to Suzu, or when they have some type of cleanse to remove that effect. So always be mindful of what you're doing. Don't just mindlessly give them ult charge. That's a lot of things that I've seen in Stadium, is that a lot of tanks sometimes they say they make a play, but it's just feeding them ult charge. Do not feed ult charge in Stadium, because it will be bad, especially if they're upscaling with that ult. So be mindful of what you're doing. Now, when the fifth round comes around, yes, from here you can do whatever you want, but like I said, remember, make sure to get what are abilities that allow you to continuously apply wound. So Reckoner's Roar is a really good one. Rule of mine, if you have Soaring Stone, I recommend going for Reckoner's Roar right after, because now when you dive the enemy backlines, you can pop Shout and also apply the wound status effect. And once you do that, you can also go for Booming Voice, which is a 50% commanding shout radius, and that is very, very, very good. Now, from here, you can honestly do whatever you want, but I will show you the optimal build. You want to have Super Flexor. Actually, no, sorry. You want to have Liquid Nitrogen, just to like help you out to hit Carnages even easier. When you slow them down, you'll just be able to hit Carnage easier, and you won't have to move your mouse around as much. But you typically always want to have one of the two debuffs, if not both debuffs if you want. And with that, the last perk you want to get honestly does not matter, because as long as you're able to self-sustain and secure eliminations, you are perfectly fine. But if you can't stay up, get a second survival perk. Scav Scraps is very good. So overall, this is the optimal build you want to run on Queen, to always apply status wound effect or wound uptime, and always secure eliminations. This is the optimal build. It's 70% AP, 10% cooldown reduction. Now, like I said, if you feel like you're dying too quick, remove Liquid Nitrogen and get another survival perk, such as Martian Mender can work. Nebula Conduit is very good too. But yeah, overall, this is my optimal Queen build for Stadium. And yeah, this is it. Thank you guys for watching, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye bye, until next time.